This is my story, the story of a teacher who battled against racism, hatred, bigotry, in search of equality for all students, in search of the ultimate goal, learning. This is my teaching story, Megan Lavagnino. I grew up in a small town in eastern Washington. The community depended on agriculture and the local dams to keep the town thriving. We weren't a very diverse town, but the few African American students we did have were shipped off to a local school 100 miles away to be with the other colored people. Growing up, I thought it was normal to call the African Americans the N-word and fly the Confederate flag in the backyard next to the American flag. I grew up extremely racist over the years, and I finally stopped once I became a student at Gonzaga University. I was exposed to people who came from more accepting families and diverse backgrounds. I joined a teachers club that had weekly conversation on what was going on in the world around us, more specifically on how some of the schools in the South were integrating black students and white students. Some of my fellow members in the club were against it and were saying how, doing this, you were a member of the Communist Party, and I was all for it. I guess I was a communist then. I believe that every child has the right to a good education and shouldn't be taking the bus for hours to get to school. Some of my coworkers are talking about how if they get a black student in their class, they will quit right on the spot. They didn't want the blacks and whites intermixing. I was all for having the schools intermix, and it wasn't until the incident in Little Rock that made me feel even more confident about my decision. 9 students went to Little Rock High School, which was previously all white. I watched this happen all over the news. I thought it was so sad that people would yell and cuss at these kids as they walked into a place where they were supposed to learn and better themselves.
There's an old friend that I once heard say something that touched my heart, and it began this way. I was born by the river in a little tent, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. He said it's been a long time coming, but I know my change is gonna come. Oh yeah. He said it's been too hard living.
Here, this video or newsreel shows students being asked questions about how they feel going to school with black students are, and an adult answering questions.
Did you have any trouble in your classes? Or
No, sir, none at all. It all went off smooth, I think, today.
many soldiers inside the schoolroom?
Any, what?
Many soldiers inside the
No, sir,
schoolroom?
let's see, I think there would be about 20 or 30 in the whole school. But I wouldn't know.
No violence that you saw.
No, sir, no violence. The soldiers went around with them.
How do you feel personally about integration?
Well, I don't mind it too much just for as many as here now, but for maybe 100 to 200, I wouldn't like it too much.
Did you have any Negroes in your classes?
Yes, in my shorthand class.
Any trouble in your classroom? Did they have soldiers at the classroom?
No, sir.
Not at yours. You saw no trouble at all.
No trouble at all.
How did it all go all right for you? Did you learn a lot today?
No, sir.
It's quite different this year than it was when you started. Quite a bit, sir. Now, how do you feel about this question of integration? You've seen it today.
Well, I think I've turned out all right. I don't want it, but no use involving the federal government, I don't think.
But did you have any Negroes in your classes?
Yes, I did. 3 of them.
And how did it go today?
It was fine. Nobody raised any fuss at all.
Did they take part in the class discussions?
No, sir, they didn't.
What did they do?
They sat and listened.
Didn't say anything at all.
No, sir.
Were they bothered in any way?
No, sir.
Are the other students friendly to them?
In some cases, yes, sir.
Well, that's the point I wondered. We hear mostly of those who don't like them, ostracize them, won't have a thing to do with them. Are there others who are the other
associate with them, but they're not necessarily mean or just ostracize them, or they don't do that.
Stopped in Dublin, stopped in court, seen the Brownie Stone, and I went to Paris.
Now you come.
I tried to go into Russia, they wouldn't let me go. And then I tried to go into Germany, and they wouldn't let me go into Germany unless I was buying or selling. They didn't have much to eat. I told them to give me water. I could drink water a couple of days. So they wouldn't let me go. So then I buy a ticket to go into Rome, and they wouldn't fly the day. They said the weather was bad. I heard they brought these soldiers in here, and I wanted to see what it looked like. That's the reason I came here to see it.
Now you've seen it. What do you think? Well, what did you find out?
Well, I haven't found out anything. I've only been here about an hour.
Yeah.
I've just been here a half hour. I down to the hotel and got a room in the hotel and got out here. I've just been here a half hour.
Well, you've been here half an hour. That's long enough to qualify you to give us a recommendation for how to settle this. You know, people can come in and come up with a solution in less than half an hour.
Well, I don't know how to settle it.
You're then not an integrationist, then I see.
Which?
An integration. Do you know what an integration
No.
is? That is an answer for integration. Do you know what integration is?
No, I don't know what you mean.
That is.
The big decision that helped integrate or move the schools to integrate was Brown v. Board of Education. Chief Justice Earl Warren said, quote, "We come then to the question presented, does segregation of children in public schools solely on the basis of race, even though the physical facilities and other tangible factors may be equal, deprive the children of the minority group of equal educational opportunities? We believe that it does. We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. Therefore, we hold that the plaintiffs and others similarly situated for whom the actions have been brought are, by reason of the segregation complained of, deprived of the equal protection of the laws guaranteed by the 14th Amendment." Quote, unquote. The black schools had horrible schools with little to no heat, old and outdated textbooks, subpar teachers who tried their best to educate their students. Meanwhile, across town, the white schools had the best building, the brand new textbooks, the best of the best teachers, the best school materials. So, in this case, separate but and equal does not mean equal. Even though the Brown v. Board of Education helped schools desegregate, they are still segregated in a way 60 years later. They are segregated by socioeconomic class, and according to the Washington Post article, initial school segregation gains following Brown stalled, and black children are more racially and socioeconomically isolated today than any time since data has been available. We see this in Spokane. Take Hutton Elementary in the South Hill, for instance. It only has 38 kids living in poverty, while Logan Elementary, right by Gonzaga, has about 90% or even more of their children living in poverty. So there is still school segregation in some ways, especially in cities with more diverse races. Take Chicago, for instance. Schools remain segregated today because neighborhoods in which they are located are segregated. Raising achievement of low-income black children requires residential integration from which school integration can follow. Education policy is housing policy. It wasn't always easy being a white teacher who was for integrating schools, but in matters of style, swim with the current, in matters of principle, stand like a rock. I stood like a rock as I walked into school and taught my 20 children in the classroom. I walked past all the hateful parents screaming, cussing, and spitting at me, while my other coward coworkers stood with them. Every child has the right to a quality education and shouldn't be segregated away from their peers no matter the color of their skin. This is what I fought for. Through my years of teaching, I gained invaluable experience. The kids always loved coming to school to learn, and I made sure that they forgot about all their outside problems and had a fun and safe place to better themselves for the future. Even though school segregation isn't completely gone, we are working towards that ultimate goal. The best thing we can do is help encourage the children to maybe go into the teaching profession, become doctors, lawyers, whatever job they see fit for themselves. I had many former students who ended up becoming teachers, lawyers, politicians, doctors, farmers, and many other jobs. This is why I taught, to better America's youth and show them that anything is possible when you just believe.